Assalamu alaikum, Kanakamoro. Today, I wanted to talk about where I come from. Y'all been hearing me talking Soninke, and I'm half Swedish, but then I'm also half Gambian. And as you can see, Gambia is a part of Africa, West Africa specifically. And the capital of Gambia is Banjul. It's said that Gambia has around 2.6 million citizens, but we also know that a lot of Gambians also are abroad, in the whole world, I might say. And it's funny because almost everywhere you go in the world, you can find someone from Gambia there. And Gambia is actually Africa's smallest part of the land, like the continent. The main language in Gambia is said to be English because it used to be an English colony, but the national language is Mandinka. Although there's a lot of discussion about that because also a big part of Gambia's people speak Wolof, even if they're not Wolof. So that's a debate. Anyways, I'm just taking the facts that I find from the internet. But some of the languages that you can find in Gambia are Mandinka, Wolof, Fula, Soninke, that's my tribe, Jola, and other tribes. And over here we have Adama Barrow, that is our current president, and he's done a lot of work. People do have split opinions about him. I know that whatever happens, he is our president, so we have to support him and, let's hope that Gambia moves forward. So 90% of the population in Gambia are actually Muslim. This is the King Farhad Mosque in Banjul, if I'm not mistaken. And 10% are actually Christian. And then in those 10%, they also say that it's a natural religion, those old school type of religion. But I've never known anyone that follows that. I borrowed this pic from my Gambia, but even though the population is mostly Muslim, you can see that a big part of Gambia's culture is tied to music, the kora, and dancing. Also the griot tradition, where they tell stories. I actually love to hear about the griots. I think it's so interesting. So people have mixed opinions when it comes to Gambia's economy, but they say that a lot of the economy is tied to, peanuts, rice, stuff like that, fishing. But then tourism also plays a big part. And some say it's thanks to the beautiful beaches and the climate and the culture. Gambians are known to be very welcoming, to be happy, and, it's called the Smiling Coast for a reason. So you see the river Gambia is actually, what the land is named after. I know that there was another name for Gambia way back, but I don't remember it. Gambia was a part of the slave trade during the 1800s, and one part of it is because of the river. It was so easy, to get into Africa through this. Easy. I shouldn't say easy, but it was easier to get into the land thanks to this river. So Gambia was colonized by the British and they were emancipated the 18th of February 1965. Some popular sites to go visit in Gambia is Serekunda and Banjul. Some say Banjul. Kachikali, if you know it, is like a crocodile pond. And then we have Jufure. In Jufure, you might recognize if you've ever watched or read the book Roots. So if you haven't read Roots or watched one of the shows, they have an older depiction, and here you can see LeVar Burton, I think his name is. He's playing Kunta Kinte here, and they also have a newer version, but this is my favorite, and he did an amazing job in this movie, honestly. So Kunta Kinte is said to be from Jufure, and there are some, discussion about how true Roots is. But to be honest, it's a good way of portraying and showing the fact of slavery. And sometimes I feel like this movie is even too kind. Like they've skipped out on some of the more harsh things that the slaves were going through. But he is something that, tells us about our heritage and our roots and how important it is to know where you come from and never lose sight of who you are. So the climate in Gambia is very hot, at least for us in Sweden. The dry period is around November to May, and after May, there is like a rainy season. We would say fall in Sweden, but so it rains from June to October, and it might not rain every day, but humidity is there, and so are the fruits. So that was a short video about Gambia, where my dad comes from. And if you're from Gambia, shout out to you, leave a comment. And also, if you enjoyed this video, then leave a comment so maybe I can continue and do this a series, because there's so much more to talk about. I'll see you guys in my next video. Januari.